In the heart of 18th century Europe, a sound was born that would echo through eternity. It was the sound of pure genius, a symphony of joy, sorrow, and sublime beauty. This is the story of a man whose name became synonymous with music itself, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. But behind the powdered wig and the celestial melodies lies a tale of a child prodigy pushed to the limits, an artist fighting for freedom, and a human spirit grappling with fame, fortune, and a tragically early fate. How did a boy from Salzburg become the immortal Mozart, and what secrets are hidden within the notes of his final, unfinished masterpiece? Born in Salzburg, Austria, in 1756, Johannes Chrysostomus Wolfgangus Theophilus Mozart was no ordinary child. His father, Leopold, a respected composer and violinist, quickly recognized his son's extraordinary gifts. By the age of 3, Wolfgang was picking out chords on the harpsichord. By 5, he was composing his first pieces. By 6, he was a virtuoso on the violin and keyboard, performing for the crowned heads of Europe. Leopold saw a golden opportunity. He packed up his family, including Wolfgang's equally talented older sister, Nannerl, and embarked on a grueling tour across the continent. For nearly a decade, the Mozart children were paraded before royalty in Munich, Vienna, Paris, and London. They were treated like circus acts, tested by skeptical nobles who would blindfold young Wolfgang or make him play with a cloth over the keys. He absorbed every musical style he encountered, from Italian opera to German symphonies, his young mind a sponge for melody and harmony. This relentless touring shaped him, but it also robbed him of a normal childhood, planting the seeds of a lifelong desire for independence. As a young man, Mozart returned to Salzburg, but the small city felt like a cage. He was employed by the rigid and unappreciative Archbishop Colloredo, who treated him not as a brilliant artist, but as a mere servant. The tension was unbearable. Mozart yearned for creative freedom, for a place where his genius could flourish without constraint. In 1781, at the age of 25, he made a bold, life-altering decision. After a heated confrontation, he broke ties with the Archbishop and moved to Vienna, the musical capital of the world, to make his way as a freelance artist. It was a risky move, one that few musicians of his time dared to make. Vienna was a whirlwind of opportunity. Mozart's first years there were a triumph. He was the talk of the town, a dazzling piano virtuoso, and a brilliant composer. He found love with Constanze Weber, and against his father's wishes, they married in 1782. This was his golden decade. The commissions poured in. He staged his German opera, The Abduction from the Seraglio, to immense acclaim. He composed a series of groundbreaking piano concertos, performing them himself to adoring crowds. His collaboration with the librettist Lorenzo da Ponte produced 3 of the greatest operas ever written: The Marriage of Figaro, Don Giovanni, and Così fan tutte. These were not just collections of beautiful arias. They were deep psychological dramas, full of complex characters, social commentary, and music that perfectly mirrored human emotion. Figaro, with its story of servants outwitting their aristocratic master, was revolutionary. Don Giovanni was a dark, supernatural thriller. Mozart was at the absolute peak of his powers, changing the very language of music. But Vienna's tastes were fickle. As the 1780s drew to a close, Mozart's popularity began to wane. His music, often considered too complex and too intense for the Viennese public, fell out of fashion. His income dwindled, and he and Constanze fell into debt. He wrote desperate, pleading letters to his friend and fellow Freemason, Michael Puchberg, begging for loans. It was a period of immense stress and anxiety, yet through it all, his creative fire never dimmed. In just 6 weeks during the summer of 1788, he composed his final 3 symphonies, numbers 39, 40, and the majestic Jupiter. These monumental works, likely never performed in his lifetime, stand as a testament to his resilient genius. The year 1791 began with a glimmer of hope. A new commission arrived for another opera, The Magic Flute. This fantastical allegory, with its themes of enlightenment and brotherhood, was a massive success with the public. It seemed Mozart's fortunes were finally turning. But as he worked on the opera, a mysterious stranger appeared, cloaked in gray, commissioning a requiem mass, a mass for the dead. The identity of this stranger is now known. He was a messenger for a count who wanted to pass the work off as his own. But to the overworked and ailing Mozart, the commission felt like a dark omen. He became obsessed with the requiem, convinced he was writing it for his own funeral. His health, fragile for years, began to fail rapidly. He worked feverishly, pouring his last ounce of strength into the music. He described the taste of death on his tongue, haunted by the belief that he had been poisoned. On the night of December 4th, his friends gathered by his bedside. Too weak to write, he hummed the parts of the requiem to them, his final creative act. Just before 1 a.m, on December 5th, 1791, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart died. He was only 35 years old. He was given a commoner's burial, laid to rest in an unmarked grave, a detail that has fueled centuries of romantic speculation about his poverty and neglect. While he did face financial struggles, he was not a destitute pauper. The simple funeral was in accordance with the public health reforms of the time. The tragedy wasn't the burial, but the silence that followed, a world robbed of decades of music that might have been. The requiem was left unfinished, a hauntingly beautiful fragment completed later by his student, Franz Seifer-Süssmayr. Mozart's legacy is immeasurable. In his short life, he composed over 600 works, a staggering output of symphonies, concertos, operas, and chamber music that touched every genre and perfected them all. He elevated music from elegant entertainment to a profound expression of the human soul. His melodies feel both divinely inspired and deeply human, capturing every shade of emotion from giddy delight to heartbreaking despair. Composers from Beethoven to Tchaikovsky revered him as a god of music. Today, more than 2 centuries after his death, his music is everywhere, in concert halls, movie soundtracks, and even our ringtones. It remains as fresh, vital, and moving as the day it was written. Mozart's life was a brilliant, fleeting meteor that blazed across the night sky. But the light he left behind will illuminate our world forever. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into the life of a genius, please like, share, and subscribe for more stories from history.